The marijuana agenda, like the gay agenda, only with better music.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the globe to bring you the latest developments in medical cannabis, adult marijuana, industrial hemp, and spiritual ganja.
We love the herb.
It's time for the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville. Now, here's your host, Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Wednesday, May 10th, 2017, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. We got a jam-packed show for you. I'm just back from New Orleans, Louisiana last night. What an amazing city. Can't wait to visit again. Also, I was in Fort Worth, Texas for the North Texas Marijuana March. That's going to be a major part of our show today. We've got highlights of speeches from me, Lori Duckworth, and Sean McAllister coming up in the middle of the program. Also on the show today, it's our Hemp Day, Hump Day update. And joining us, Joy Beckerman from the Washington Hemp Industries Association will be speaking about the state's first industrial hemp crop. Yeah, you heard that right. First industrial hemp crop. And then at the end of the first hour, we'll hear from Michael Kravitz on the Veterans Cannabis Group's April conference call. He discussed the ideas of veterans using medical cannabis and how that might affect their gun rights. Then stay tuned in hour two. We got more highlights, more speeches from the North Texas Marijuana March. We've also got the cannabis headline news coming up right after this first break. Of course, we'll tell you all about that great news breaking in the state of Vermont and other states, including Georgia, and an update from Texas we have to tell you about. Love it having you here. Thanks for joining us. This is the Marijuana Agenda. I'm Russ Belville. We're back right after this.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
Looking for the 420 friendliest way to visit beautiful legal Potland, Oregon?
I'm Lori Duckworth, inviting you to come stay with us at Delta 9 House and Studios.
You get your own private room with queen bed and access to our high-speed Wi-Fi, premium entertainment system, and more.
We'll even cook you breakfast. Look us up on Facebook at Delta 9 House.
That's facebook.com/Delta9House. Delta 9 House is booked through Airbnb and licensed by the City of Portland.
It's time for cannabis facts about Alzheimer's from Robert Platshorn's TheSilverTour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A new Florida study in the journal Molecular and Cellular Neuroscience found that cannabis promotes the growth of healthy new brain tissue. It can slow the effects of Alzheimer's and may in fact be able to halt it entirely. A long-term study by Ohio State University's Professor Gary Wenk concludes that people who regularly use marijuana get Alzheimer's at a much lower rate than others. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 2 weeks for the voice of the industry from the National Cannabis Industry Association. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
This is your Cannabis Headline News. Brought to you by MarijuanaMoment.net, the complete source for all your marijuana news in one morning newsletter from Marijuana Majority Founder Tom Angel. Subscribe today for free at MarijuanaMoment.net.
This is your Cannabis Headline News for Wednesday, May 10th, 2017. I'm Russ Belville. A bill that would make marijuana legal for adults in Vermont has received final approval from state legislators and is headed to the desk of Governor Phil Scott. If he signs it or allows it to become law without his signature, Vermont would become the first state to make marijuana legal for adults via its legislative body. The House of Representatives voted Wednesday to concur with the version of S-22 that passed last Friday in the Senate. Beginning in July 2018, it would eliminate Vermont's civil penalty for possessing 1 ounce or less of marijuana and remove penalties for possession of up to 2 marijuana plants and up to 4 immature plants. It would also create a study commission to develop legislation to regulate and tax marijuana for adult use. 57% of Vermont voters support allowing adults 21 and older to possess and grow limited amounts of marijuana, according to a statewide survey of 755 registered voters conducted in March by Public Policy Polling. Only 39% are opposed. Georgia Governor Nathan Deal signed into law Tuesday a measure that expands the state's medical marijuana program. Senate Bill 16 makes 6 more conditions eligible for treatment with a limited form of cannabis oil allowed in Georgia: AIDS, Alzheimer's disease, autism, epidermolysis bullosa, peripheral neuropathy, and Tourette's syndrome. It also allows patients in hospice care to possess the oil. The newly signed law is the result of a compromise between legislative chambers that keeps the maximum allowable percentage of THC in the form of cannabis oil to 5%. THC is the component in marijuana that makes people high. State senators originally proposed decreasing the limit to 3%, despite no state public health officials or law enforcement agencies reporting issues with the higher percentage. As of Tuesday, 1,738 patients in Georgia and 354 doctors have registered with the state to use and administer medical marijuana. Marijuana dispensaries may start selling recreational weed within Nevada as soon as July 1st, the state tax board voted Monday, 6 months earlier than previously expected. While Nevadans voted last November in favor of legalizing marijuana, lawmakers aren't expected to draft rules governing the state's recreational weed program until January of 2018. With medical marijuana dispensaries already legally operating across the state, however, the Nevada Tax Commission on Monday voted 6-1 in favor of granting temporary retail licenses to currently existing pot shops. Monday's decision means licensed medical marijuana dispensaries in Nevada can submit applications to the State Department of Taxation starting May 15th, seeking permission to sell their wares to patrons other than patients. Dispensaries deemed to be in good standing with the state are expected to receive the first temporary licenses July 1st, at which point they'll be legally allowed to serve medical and recreational weed customers alike. After gaining the support of most House members last week, a bill legalizing medical marijuana was declared dead Tuesday night by its authors, a Texas Republican and Texas Democrat who vowed to continue working on the issue. Quote, "The clock ran out," end quote, Representative Jason Isaac, a Republican of Dripping Springs, told the Texas Observer Tuesday evening. Representative Eddie Lucio III, a Brownsville Democrat who authored House Bill 2107, and Isaac, the bill's first co-author, said they were able to build unheard of momentum for the bill. More than half of the Texas House signed on to the legislation, but weren't able to beat legislative deadlines. Meanwhile, House Bill 81 will head to the Texas House on Thursday. This statewide decriminalization bill would make possession of an ounce or less of marijuana a $250 civil fine, and there would be no arrest. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is reviewing policy changes set in place by the Obama administration that eliminated harsh punishments for low-level drug crimes and could direct federal prosecutors to again charge drug offenders with crimes carrying the most severe penalties, according to U.S. officials. If new charging instructions are implemented, it would mark the first significant move by the Trump administration to bring back the drug war's toughest practices, methods that had fallen out of favor in recent years as critics pointed to the damaging effects of mass incarceration. This has been your Cannabis Headline News for Wednesday, May 10th, 2017. I'm Russ Belville.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
This is Cannabis Facts from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org, supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. In 1937, the second most prescribed medicine, marijuana, was banned. It wasn't about marijuana. The paper, oil, and chemical industries lobbied to end hemp farming. No longer labor intensive, an acre of hemp produced more quality paper than 4 acres of trees. Plastics and fibers could be produced from a plant. Hemp can even produce 10 times the energy of today's ethanol. As marijuana prohibition ends, many states now allow farmers to again grow hemp. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to process America's hemp crop at hempinc.com.
The Marijuana Agenda, like the pharmaceutical agenda, without all the side effects, overdose deaths, insurance.
Side effects may include nausea, dry mouth, and constipation. Dry mouth, constipation, indigestion, and abdominal pain,
which can occur without warning and may cause death.
I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. Join me for A Sensible Future from Students for Sensible Drug Policy every other Tuesday here on the Marijuana Agenda. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
Jack Herer once said that hemp could save the planet. Today, we take a look at the non-drug use of the cannabis plant as fuel, fiber, food, and more. Now, let's restore hemp for victory in this Hemp Day Hump Day update.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're doing it live today for our Hemp Day Hump Day update, but I couldn't ask for a better guest to have a live interview with than our next guest. The president of the Washington Hemp Industries Association, Joy Beckerman, joins us by telephone. Hi, Joy.
Hello, Russ. Thank you for everything you do for cannabis in all of its many forms every day.
Oh, well, thank you for calling into the show because I got a press release from your organization, Washington State Hemp Industries Association, remarking on the event of the first hemp seed planting, first legal hemp seed planting in Washington State. I cleaned off my glasses. I looked at my calendar and it said 2017. I thought you guys legalized in 2012. What's going on there in Washington? Tell us about this event that's happening in a couple weeks.
Thank you so much. Yes, indeed, by initiative and voter of the people, we did legalize the cultivation, distribution, consumption of marijuana in November 2012. But it took us 4 more years to legalize the cultivation and distribution of industrial hemp here in the state. And it wasn't because we didn't have support in our legislature. We actually had unanimous support on both sides of the aisle. Believe it or not, sometimes it's just competing bills that can keep a good idea from becoming law. So we had a Republican in the House and we had a Democrat in the Senate, and they each had hemp bills those years, and that alone kept it from happening. So last year, in the December 2015-2016 session, the WSDA and I and others who are industry leaders decided to get behind the Senate Democrat bill. The Senator Bob Hasagawa, who was the prime sponsor of that bill, was really willing to work with us. And so we made our bill, crafted it so that we would be able to be in compliance with federal law. And that is exactly what we have here. We really feel we're poised for leadership here in the state of Washington in terms of driving the oil seed and fiber industries of industrial hemp, which of course are the true trillion-dollar industries. The phytocannabinoid market, nutraceutical medical market for industrial hemp-derived phytocannabinoids, of course, is huge. However, we're already seeing it's kind of saturated here in the U.S. right now with U.S.-grown hemp. And if we go straight to phytocannabinoid extraction and just develop those markets, we are really entering a bubbling market right now and not positioning the state of Washington to really lead an agricultural and industrial revolution in the many, many markets of oilseed and fiber, which of course include human and animal consumption, body care, paper, textiles, building materials, biofuel, nanotechnology. The list goes on and on. So we are planting our first legal seeds. Our law was passed in March of last year. It took us a year to draft the rules. We just finalized our rules last month, and our first legal seeds in 90 years will go into the ground in just a couple weeks, right in Moses Lake, Washington.
And you're putting on an event to commemorate that, an educational event?
Yes, I mean that, of course, you know me well, Russ, and you know that's what makes me the happiest in life is if I am telling the story of hemp in all of its various industries and agronomy and processing and all of those things. And yes, so the Washington Hemp Industries Association, in conjunction with main sponsors Hemp-Base International, my company, and Hemp Logic USA, which is our legal seed dealer. I think they're the only ones that have accomplished that so far in the state of Washington. We will be putting on this event, a full-day event. The Washington State Department of Agriculture will be present at this event. Of course, our industrial hemp coordinator, Emily Feblis from the WSDA, will be speaking all about our research program and our regulations. We'll have Andrea Herman, the global first lady of hemp, U.S. girl who resides in Canada and writes regulation and reviews legislation all over the world and in 20 states. She will be with us. Jeff Kostyk, who has done the industrial hemp research since 1998 in Canada, since Canada started their legal program there. He's been there from the beginning and had been with the Department of Agriculture in the government of Manitoba since 1985. Before that, he will be speaking. Matt Powers, who is an incredible educator, a well-known permaculture educator from Southern California. He will be present to discuss soil ecology and healing land with him. So it's really a full day. I will be doing 2 topics as well, of course, federal law and sharing through strength through cooperation. So it's really just going to be a great day for folks to come together, learn how to farm hemp, the various little things that we need to pay attention to that are unique to hemp. Indeed, of course, there are many that say, I know how you farm hemp. You just put a seed in the ground and you grow. Really? What depth of seed? How far away should those seeds be planted? What kind of nutrients and watering are required? All of those things. So it isn't quite that simple. It sure is if you want to do it in your backyard. But if we're looking at commercial or productive agriculture, which is, of course, what we want in terms of really making an agricultural and industrial revolution, we have to maximize yield and do it wisely and understand what those needs are, what the harvesting and drying and storing equipment is, and of course to understand the regulatory and legal framework. It's important to note that in this legislative session, an incredible historical thing happened, and that is that HB 2064 in Washington State passed, and that actually removed industrial hemp from our State Uniform Controlled Substances Act. So a very exciting thing, and the first state to do it, and just a long overdue injustice that has been accomplished in our state by saying and recognizing on the books industrial hemp does not belong anywhere on any schedule, on any controlled substances list. It is not a public harm factor. There is no scientific or public harm reason for it to be there. Let's remove it. Having said that, and we did that. It passed unanimously in both houses, and the governor has signed it. It has become law already. The issue, actually, I shouldn't say that. It'll become law on July 23rd. So right now we're in this netherworld. Having said that, it doesn't do anything to change our existing law, which was passed last year in Senate Bill 6206, and which has been codified in RCW 15.120, the Revised Code of Washington 15.120, which requires licensing, much like farming a Dungeness crab in our waters would require a state license from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Of course, a Dungeness crab is not a controlled substance. It never has been. Yet still a license is required to farm it. And it is through our law and the RCW 15.120 that gives us all of the many benefits and protections that come with being a federally compliant program. Because I think, as I've discussed with you on other occasions in the recent past, 31 states have legalized some form of industrial hemp legislation, but only 10 have really ever gotten seeds in the ground. And that's due to the oversimplification of industrial hemp, or they just didn't have the guidance from educators or grassroots activists as involved and with their head wrapped around those issues as much as I have and as much as our own State Department of Ag, and I give them a lot of credit for over these years of hemp bills. They have exponentially increased their own knowledge base and really want to be in partnership with the state of Washington to reintroduce this crop. So when we have a federally compliant program, and there are only a few states that do, ours is definitely one in Washington, we get all the bennies that come with that. So our life is made quite a bit easier. And that is that we get USDA organic certification eligibility, access to USDA, and I am so sorry we are live. Yeah. I am
the phones
so
are
sorry.
Ringing off the hook for hemp. That's
they
okay.
are. They absolutely are. And thank you, sir. And so we get the USDA organic certification eligibility. We get access to USDA NIFA grant funds. NIFA is the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. We get the eligibility for the DEA CSIEA permit for certified seeds. That's the Controlled Substance Import and Export permit for that allow certified seeds, which are already in the market right now internationally, in countries, of course, that allow for industrial hemp cultivation, that feed existing markets. And of course, we won't have our farmers will not have to worry about any type of civil asset forfeiture. We won't have to worry about federal water rights, all of those things. So, and so much more. Bank loans, there are certain banks that have within our state that said, hey, since you are compliant with federal law, we can't wait to lend money to build this industry and to reinvigorate the farming industry and give all kinds of new job creation and economic growth and stimulus to the state of Washington. So all of that comes with federal compliance, and that's the type of program that we have here. We're very, very proud of it. There's certainly many ridiculous things in our law and in our regulation that do need to be changed, tweaked, and corrected, and we'll be working on that all summer long and probably be working on it for several years to come until the feds completely deschedule industrial hemp in its entirety, and that's on its way.
Yes. Let's hope so in very short order. So let's make sure our listeners can check out the event if they want to register, get tickets in advance or anything like that. What are some of the online outlets?
I so appreciate that, sir. If you just go to letsfarmhemp.com, that's letsfarmhemp.com. It will take you right to registration. If you're on Facebook searching for events, search How to Farm Hemp. It will pop right up. But that Let's Farm Hemp will get you to it. And what's really neat is that the cost to attend for this full day, and by the way, we're doing a whole caravan in the middle of the day and going to watch the hemp planting demonstration. The WSDA will plant. Then we'll go back to do more education. So it's a full-day event. It's $200, but $125 of that $200 can go toward your farmer or business membership for the Hemp Industries Association, which is our founder, really our national brain trust for industrial hemp, founded in 1994. We have taken the DEA to court in 2003 and 2004, the HIA, and won really the true leaders and champions of as far as we have gotten with industrial hemp. And certainly our lawsuits in 2003 and 2004 against
this episode was produced as part of the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville, the daily news and interview podcast covering the world of medical cannabis, adult marijuana, industrial hemp, and spiritual ganja. Subscribe now for free at mjagenda.com.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
It's time for Cannabis Facts about teen drug use from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A recent survey by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control indicates that in states that have legalized medical marijuana, the rate of marijuana consumption among high school students has not increased. In fact, in legal states like Colorado, teen use has actually decreased significantly. It's simply no longer a big deal for teenagers in legal states. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 4 weeks for the Celebrity Marijuana Zone with Steve Bloom from celebstoner.com. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
activism begins with ACT. The Marijuana Agenda features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
All right, we got some clips from the North Texas Marijuana March. Took place in Fort Worth this past Saturday. I flew down there, joined by Lori Duckworth, my partner here at Delta 9 House and Studios. We've got a couple of 3 2-minute clips for you from each one of us and Sean McAllister, who'll lead off. He's the executive director of DFW NORML, talking about contacting your reps, followed by me and then Lori.
HB 81. HB 2107. These bills will change the state of Texas forever. And if you're here today, that means you have an opinion on marijuana. And what I want you to do is take 5 minutes during today and Google who represents me. Find out who your state representative is. You're going to Google who represents me and it'll pull up this weird link page, FYI. whatever. Put in your full address, not just your zip code, and you're going to get your state house representative. State, not federal. State house representative. And I want you to call their capital office. They're not there. Call their capital office today and say, hey, my name is Sean McAllister. I'm a constituent in your district. I pay taxes and I vote. I believe that it's time for you to support HB 81 to decriminalize marijuana in Texas. And I also believe it's time for you to support HB 2107 to bring medical marijuana to the state of Texas. Are you with me, Texas? Yeah! If you do these things, it will be worth more than posting 1,000 things on the internet that are pro-cannabis. It'll be worth more than buying a t-shirt, becoming a member. It'll be worth more than all of that. You know why? Because all of a sudden your lawmakers will have heard from you, likely many of you for the first time ever. And they're going to be curious, they're going to be interested, and they're going to want to know that people in their district support marijuana law reform. That's you. Does anybody live in Arlington? Make some noise if you live in Arlington. Mostly in the back, that's weird. That's weird. If you live in Arlington and your representative is Tony Tinderholt, I want you to call his office today and make doubly damn sure that he knows the people in his district support medical marijuana, because he's afraid of some little old ladies not voting him back into office. I got news for you. There's way more cannabis consumers in the city of Arlington than there are little old ladies, Tony Tinderholt. And we're going to vote. We're going to vote for somebody like Jessica Pallett of the Libertarian Party to take your job. Yeah. If you don't get with the program, not later, right now. And I want you all to have that exact same attitude about your lawmakers. If they're not supporting this, politely remind them that it doesn't matter what their personal beliefs are. It matters what the beliefs of their constituents are. They represent you, not them. If they're not representing you, you need to get with the program and make sure they understand what's important to you. Are you with me, Texas? Yeah. Beautiful.
Hello, Texas. Hello. From Portland, Oregon, where at my house, I can wake up in the morning, drink some coffee, put on some shoes, walk 6 blocks down the road, and buy some weed. Yeah. Or buy some concentrates. Yes. Legally. Like I can walk into a store and they check my ID and I can buy marijuana and walk home with it. And nobody cares. It's beautiful. And guess what? The sky didn't fall. Everything's still working pretty much the same as it used to, except maybe people have a little more of a smile on their face these days. Yeah. Don't you think we could do that in Texas? I mean, come on. We're all smoking weed. They know we're smoking weed. They know they know we're smoking weed. Let's stop fooling around here and get with the program and just get on to legalization. That's going to take steps. HB 2107, you got to make that step into medical. You're going to have that HB 81, that step into decrim. But man, you take enough steps and you walked a mile. You walked 1,000 miles eventually. And understand that's where we started in Oregon as well. We started with decrim in 1973, started with medical in 1998. Fortunately, you're not going to have to wait 40 years to take all your steps, because a lot of people have taken those steps before you, and you can just follow their path. And this is the path. Getting active, putting your feet on the ground. Like Sean said, a whole bunch of posts on Facebook don't mean nothing compared to getting your feet in the street and meeting people and changing their minds by sharing your stories.
In 2010, I sued the sheriff of my county, Jackson County, to get my concealed handgun license because, like Russ said, we should be able to have our guns even though we have medical marijuana cards and we're sick. And I won. That pissed him off. We took it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. You can look it up. Winters versus Willis. Well, that made him mad, so he, along with several of the deputies' wives, started a school less than a block from my facility. And for 2 years, they investigated us and trumped up charges. Look it up, Operation Storefront. When they raided us a year later, my husband and I took a plea bargain to get 28 and 29 felonies dropped. They made up the charge, and nobody else in Oregon's ever been convicted of this, but we took it because I didn't want to sit in prison for the rest of my life, and neither did he. The charge was delivery of more than 1 ounce of cannabis to another medical marijuana card holder for no consideration. In other words, we did it for free. No one will ever be convicted of that crime again. But we got our guns and our ammunition back. Never in the state of Oregon had that been done. It also set the precedence for clubs to be open where people could go and congregate and enjoy their cannabis together. Until most recently when cannabinoids were thrown into the Clean Air Act and they closed once again. We're fighting that right now in our legislature. It's a hard battle in Oregon. Yes, we have dispensaries, but you know how we did it? We all got out there, we got involved. I organized marches just like this in Medford and Jackson County for 6 years. Even 2 weeks before they raided our facility. We had our officers, which we show great respect for wherever I go, who helped us too, and they were great. They didn't want to put us in jail. They even said they were sorry when they handcuffed me, because the officer that handcuffed me was my friend. He was doing a job.
Great speeches from Sean McAllister and Lori Duckworth. I was also proud to be able to speak there for the 5th year in a row at the North Texas Marijuana March. Get involved with DFW NORML if you're in the Metroplex. Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, and the surrounding areas. They always have something going on, and I'll see you again in the fall. I'm going to be marrying somebody.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
The Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association and the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit MJBA.net for more details.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORML.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
I'm Russ Belville with the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 2 weeks for the Cannabis Minority Report from the Minority Cannabis Business Association. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
America's veterans serve their country to preserve, protect, and defend our Constitution. When they return home, their country should honor its promise to provide them with the best medical care. But veterans who seek to treat the mental and physical wounds they received in the military are denied access to medical cannabis, even in the states that have legalized medical use. Learn more from the Veterans Cannabis Group in this episode of Veterans of Compassion.
Every month, the Veterans Cannabis Group holds a conference call that you can join on. You can look up at veteranscannabisgroup.com. And in the April call, our friend Michael Kravitz was a part of the discussion on medical marijuana use by veterans and their gun rights.
We were talking about firearms and medical cannabis, especially, for veterans. And so, Michael, what was some of the new things that you kind of came across since our last call in regards to this topic?
Okay, so I spoke with one of the attorneys out on the West Coast. That's actually attorney Lee Berger, who successfully fought a case in the Supreme Court of Oregon. But that case was not a case that wound up going to the appeals court. There was yet another case. And but I was able to really get an idea of what is really in the middle of these cases. How these are all about the courts seem to be about issues. That's what my layman's perspective would have been going into the courts. It's about issues. You can go and fight the law, if the law is wrong, or you can present your case, on the issues. And it really isn't about it. It's very, very circumstantial. And the circumstances of the cases that went to the appeals court so far were very interesting to me because they kind of sort of gave up on the notion of whether you could actually use marijuana, possess and use marijuana or cannabis under state medical marijuana law or otherwise, and possess a firearm. That they pretty much they just haven't even broached that issue. Apparently, what has been at issue in these circumstances has been people that have had the card for a medical marijuana program and then claimed to the court that they had never actually used marijuana, they just got the card, and that the possession of the card itself was implying that they were using medical marijuana, and therefore made them ineligible to get a concealed carry license. And I think, this is just me thinking, but this is what these calls are all about, just kind of thinking out loud here. But, if you're using medical marijuana under state law, and you're using it under recommendation from your doctor, and you go to your doctor and you pay them with money and they pay their taxes, and this is all very legal, and then you go and you get cannabis from a dispensary, again, it's following state guidelines, it's also staying within the federal guardrails. You're paying with a credit card. You're taking this stuff home. It's all on the up and up. You asked a police officer for directions, on the way out of the clinic. I mean, whatever. It's legal. You don't feel any threat of arrest whatsoever. But yet, then somehow this is illegal enough that it's considered illegal drug use under this act. I just don't buy it. I think that reversing the kind of the notion of standing, again, it's not about the issues. If you go into federal court and you try to fight the law has to have offended you. You have to really face jail or some other imminent real threat from the law. You can't just say that you're afraid of the law coming after you if you do what you need to do. It doesn't work that way. But if you go in there and you can claim standing based on the fact that you're using medical marijuana and you're using it legally under state law, they would consider in the courts, I'm sure of it, that you had no threat of arrest. You had no standing. There's got to be a way for us to reverse this. It's kind of big think stuff, but I think we're going to have to figure out some kind of legal theory here and follow it.
Michael, it's Sean, and I apologize. I don't know who's on the phone besides you, but I wanted to...
You're on the call. Hey, Sean, you're on the call with everybody, but go ahead, speak up.
Hey, thanks. Wouldn't just apply, when you apply like in Arizona, Nevada, you apply, you go to get, buy your gun, you just fill out the questionnaire, the federal background check. I believe, if I'm not incorrect, it asks you straight up, do you do drugs, have you done drugs, or are you a medical marijuana? At least in Nevada, it does say that. And
the form says, are you addicted to or habitual user of illegal drugs? And we're kind of thinking this through, but using it under a medical marijuana law, you're under doctor's orders, you're certainly not addicted, and saying that you're using it illegally just doesn't seem to fit. You know what I mean?
No, I agree, but what I'm getting to the point is that the actual part, you can incur the actual part just by buying a gun disclosed to your medical marijuana holder. That will deny you the right to buy a gun or refuse sale, and that's your key, aggression, that occurred that allows you to sue.
Well, like I said, so far, I think it was just before you got on the call, but I was running through the cases that have been brought to the court so far, and they've conceded the marijuana issue, essentially, and what they've been talking about are cases where people have gotten a medical marijuana card but actually never even used marijuana. They just had the card. And they were trying to argue that, you can't just deny someone just for basically being, quote-unquote, a medical marijuana patient unless they're actively using marijuana, I guess is their argument. So what we're going to have to do, I think, with this line of logic that we're talking about is come up with a whole new strategy, a whole new approach, and find a different case to run off of. It's really a lot more challenging than I had anticipated.
I got it. We'll talk offline. I think I have a thought, though, but I was a little confused of where you're coming from, so I will think it through with you offline.
Yeah, and certainly Sean and I have talked about issues that come up around this as well that we haven't talked about on the conference call yet in previous calls, and that is it is clearly illegal to possess a firearm under certain circumstances that are written in the law elsewhere. In the case of someone who's been released from prison after serving a felony sentence, right? Is that right, Sean?
Correct. Yes.
So.
But the bigger one for veterans is simply anytime, depending on what state you're in, 5150 in California, Nevada 2000, you get your gun rights limited when you're involuntarily observed at the VA place. The first time, I think, 5 years, and then the second time, it's life ban from owning a firearm.
Whoa, so that's another issue that we should definitely look into if they're pulling people into that for drug use or for marijuana especially.
No, it's not even that. It's the veteran side, and I know this is cannabis, so we'll move on, but it's something you need to address because 93% of all the list on the federal no-buy list, gun registry, are vets who have been reported as mentally unstable, and all that is basically guys going in and just getting held for 72 hours.
Well, we had a vet in Maine who just really was at wit's end, had gone to the VA, and the whole thing was about marijuana. He had gone in there and talked to him about using marijuana, and that got him in a real face-to-face with these guys. They really started following him around with police and everything, and it devolved. And this vet reacted very harshly to that. It came back armed, and it wound up being a fatality. The police shot him on the campus. And there was yet another case in Maine where a veteran suffered post-traumatic stress. The police showed up at a domestic dispute at his house where in any other circumstance they would have come with much toned-down approach, but they were told that this was a violent veteran, suffered post-traumatic stress. They were all pumped up, and he showed up at the door with a kitchen knife in his hand, and they just blew him away. So I think this is actually something that, cannabis is in there. I mean, cannabis may be 2 steps back in the chain from where the circumstances hit the road, but I'm willing to take that stretch.
Okay, well, all right. Hey, and Sean, this is Aaron Augustus. How you doing?
How you doing?
Good. Something that is interesting for me is people that are in the cannabis industry, whether they're growing or what have you, mostly the people that are growing up in the hills, those people have possession, they possess firearms to protect their property. And from my understanding, that's if you're caught with the firearm and you're cultivating or acting in a crime, so to speak, right? Then it's a minimum of 5 years per firearm.
Yeah, no, the story with firearms is interesting because there was that big case in Washington a couple of years ago. It wasn't veteran related, but state of Washington, they were legal in their grow on the medical side. Within the rules of the state of Washington, but they were still being prosecuted by the feds. And basically what ends up happening is 5 of the 6 counts got thrown out, and the father of it died of cancer, so the charges but he got found, they ended up spending about a year in jail, but they were under threat of 10 years in jail, and it varies the number of firearms of the offense. But this is what people listen. Anytime you have a gun, even if it's registered and legal, in your vicinity is any illegal illicit drug that you have illegally, it becomes a federal offense, and I think the minimum is 10 years actually, because that's what it was, and they use that, and that's one of the things they hold over a lot of these drug people's heads when they say, okay, we're either going to either plead guilty to X, or we're going to charge you and take you to trial, and you're going to spend up to 10 to 20 years in jail, and then everyone goes, oh, I'll plead and take 6 months in jail. I mean, that's what's going on in our court system in terms of, they're just trying to get these people to plead, and that's what they use. They use those heavy hammers of things like the gun against people. I don't know any of you guys who know N.A. Poe, who got arrested in Philly this weekend. It's going around, and he was a big-time activist with Mike Wider in Philly. He got illegal. He got raided. They had this event going on where they were selling cannabis and raided, and I think there was 4 guns at the property, all legally registered, including the security guard. But remember, cannabis isn't legal to be sold in Philly, so they may slam them with gun charges too. So it's a huge issue that comes out of the drug war, where they basically just scared the shit out of middle America about drugs, and middle America accepted every possible harsh punishment that they could throw at them.
In Virginia, there's a law that's based on the amount of weight of the marijuana, and basically what it says is if you possess a illegal drug, Schedule 1 or 2, like cocaine, in any amount, and a gun at the same time, possess those two things together, you're guilty of this, violating this law. And the marijuana, we worked hard in Virginia to make it not be any amount of marijuana, but it wound up being like 5 pounds of marijuana. But still, 5 pounds of marijuana together with a gun in close proximity in Virginia clicks up a state law violation, as well as the federal violation. I think it's worth noting that the federal government doesn't get involved in that many arrests. It's the state that usually does most arrests. The federal government has come up with like a convenient rule of thumb of about 100 plants or more, but they're usually in the thousands of plants and multiple outlets and big commercial buys and things like that. If they get involved in a single person, it's probably pretty political, and they've done that before. They went after our buddy up there, the Prince of Pot up in Vancouver.
Rick Simpson?
No, they went after him politically as well. Yeah, no, I was thinking about Mark Emery, yeah.
This episode was produced as part of the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville, the daily news and interview podcast covering the world of medical cannabis, adult marijuana, industrial hemp, and spiritual ganja. Subscribe now for free at mjagenda.com.
Hey everybody, it's Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
The Marijuana Agenda, like the alcohol agenda. But a lot safer.
I'm Russ Belville with the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 2 weeks for Cannabis Q&A with Dr. Mitch Earlywine
from the Burning Issues podcast on CannabisRadio.com. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
Total war against public enemy number one.
10 federal criminal penalties for up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
Marijuana is probably the most dangerous drug.
Legalization is just another word for surrender.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
This is not medicine. This is a Cheech and Chong show.
Encourage people to use less drugs.
I am ill.
That was the point.
I think it would be a mistake to legalize.
Negative reports coming out of Colorado.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
This weekend, I flew to Fort Worth, Texas to participate in the 5th North Texas Marijuana March I've had a part of. It coincides with the global cannabis march that we all take part in worldwide. And I'm always impressed by the marijuana activism in Texas. They're led by Executive Director Sean McAllister, and it's the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of NORML. And they are an exemplar for effective grassroots politics. This organization rebuts every complaint I've ever heard from aspiring activists about being unable to make any progress on marijuana reform because they're living in a red state. Witness what has transpired in the past 5 years in Texas. Where it was once a deep, red, bottomless pit of prohibition, it is now a state that has a medical cannabidiol law. It's got a few cities with either decriminalization or cite and release laws, and now bills for both whole plant medical marijuana and statewide decrim that are beginning to make it out of legislative committees and attract widespread support. And that didn't happen in a vacuum. DFW NORML, along with other NORML chapters in the state, MPP's excellent organization there, patient advocacy organizations, and allied groups like the Libertarian Party of Texas and RAMP, don't forget Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition, founded by Mrs. Ann Lee, the mother of the California Prop 19 proponent Richard Lee. Well, they all put pressure on their elected officials by testifying, lobbying, and educating both the lawmakers and the public. That teamwork is part of what charms me so much about my appearances in the prohibition states. Out on the West Coast, where we've legalized and had medical for 2 decades, the once harmonious marijuana activist community is now fractured among multiple fault lines concerning how do we get rich or who gets to be medical and what reforms do we pursue now. But in places like Texas, where both patients and potheads are still one encounter with a county sheriff from possibly losing everything, the community is tight and focused and so ready to support one another. And that teamwork extends beyond just the activist base as well. DFW NORML has a great supporter in the law office of David Sloan. Yeah, most NORML chapters are well advised to ally with the criminal defense attorneys in the area who specialize in drug crime defense, and there are many of them doing fantastic work. But how many of them have helped outfit their allied NORML chapter with a refitted police car called the Truth Enforcement Vehicle, car number 420, complete with a siren and flashing green lights and NORML logos and pot leaf graphics, and a DFW NORML Suburban, and a DFW NORML van, and Hydro, the DFW NORML speedboat, which powers DFW NORML's wakeboarding team, and a couple of DFW NORML wave runners. And sure, you're thinking, yeah, it's easy to be some big-time NORML chapter if you have some rich lawyer backing you. But the question you should be asking yourself is what that NORML chapter did to attract the support of a rich lawyer. One method of activism DFW NORML pioneered was that any NORML chapter could adopt for very little cost is a highway banner drop. I joined up with Sean and his crew as we made our way Friday to a pedestrian overpass crossing Highway 360, the major north-south artery in Arlington between Dallas and Fort Worth, for one of these banner drops. Honk for Marijuana was one of the 30-foot banners we clipped up on the chain link fence for the overpass on the southbound lanes, and Honk for Medical Marijuana was the other one on the northbound lanes. We had 2 other banners advertising the Marijuana March for the following Saturday. Literally thousands of Texans driving through that stretch saw the green lights of the truth enforcement vehicle pulled off to the side of the road on the southbound lanes, and as they slowed to read the overpass signs, the honks of encouragement were plentiful. We even spent time with pedestrians crossing the bridge, telling them about the 2 marijuana bills pending in their legislature. Now, a police officer did show up to survey the scene, but aside from asking the truth enforcement car to move off to the frontage road, they made no effort to interfere with our First Amendment rights. The Department of Transportation received a few calls from irate drivers upset about the slow traffic, but they also made no effort to stop us. The next day, we gathered in Burnett Park for speakers and bands. Vendors plied their wares and activists registered new voters. The march itself drew in a few hundred, maybe 1,000 people chanting and openly smoking marijuana in the streets of Fort Worth, while bicycle police maintained order but did not interfere with the toking. We took over the steps of the county courthouse for more speeches before returning to the park. It's all made possible thanks to years of relationship building between DFW Normal, the police, and the businesses in the activist community. And one of the strongest business supporters of reform in the Metroplex, and full disclosure, the sponsor of my body art, is Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and its owner, Thomas Barrington. I was there Sunday after appearing as Harry J. Anslinger in a video shoot for a producer trying to educate Texans on the history of Prohibition. Thomas was inking my latest tattoo, the Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol molecule on my left forearm, as he told me about another form of activism he's involved, erasing hate. He said, "I'm committing tattoo suicide," as he was searing my arm with the needle, "by doing this work for free. These guys have these swastikas, Nazi tattoos, Confederate flags on them, but now they've changed their lives. They've got kids now who are asking them, 'Daddy, what's that mean?' So I've been doing cover-up work on them for free, you know?" It's one of the coolest charitable acts I've ever heard of. Thomas lamented, though, "I only wish I could get more artists to donate their time to do more of this work." Well, whether it's the physical manifestations of racial hatred inked on skin, or the legal manifestations of racial hatred inked into prohibition, the Texans I've met aren't having it. Mark my words, Texas will shock the nation with its marijuana reforms in the next 5 years. Thanks for joining us here on the Marijuana Agenda. I'm Russ Belville. Those of you listening live, watching on YouTube, stay tuned for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. We got more speeches from the North Texas Marijuana March. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
Follow MJ Agenda on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, and SoundCloud. And follow MJ Agenda Show on Twitter. Learn more at mjagenda.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
Name something that gets passed around.
A joint.
A joint.
Now, streaming live on the Marijuana Agenda.
Oh, really? What are you people? On dope?
It's time for Toker Talk Radio.
Hey, this is great, man.
The voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug. That is absurd.
Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ. That's 650-534-2565.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
Hey, man. Am I driving okay?
Toker Talk Radio is your chance to make your voice heard in the Marijuana Nation.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
Send that message with clarity that good people don't smoke marijuana.
Now let's get to Toking and Talking with your host, Russ Belville.
Hey, welcome back, live listeners. It's time for Toker Talk Radio. And I got new ink. I was showing it off on the floating ghost cam there. Yeah, I got new ink while I was there. It's the Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol molecule. It's still sore, so you can see it's kind of red, but nice line work. And I've been off for the past couple days, Monday and Tuesday, because while I was there in North Texas, on Friday we did a banner drop. On Friday afternoon, I did a show. Saturday, we did the Global Cannabis March and then the after party. Sunday, I got up and I donned a suit. We went out to a place up on a hill in Fort Worth, visited with a producer who we filmed a segment of me in a kind of a courtroom setting at a desk with a placard. Oh, I got to get my placard out and show it to you. I'll do the show and tell later. A placard that says Harry J. Anslinger. So I now have this hemp plastic molded placard with a little desk placard with the pen hole, right? With a hemp pen too, that says Harry J. Anslinger on it. And I played Harry J. Anslinger, and I read some of the most inflammatory Harry J. Anslinger racist quotes about marijuana. So for this film project, it's this documentary. So I'll let you know if that comes out, if I end up being the face and voice of Harry Anslinger. I don't know if that was necessarily the right choice, but hey, we'll see what happens. But then from there, made my way to Bossier City, Louisiana, nearby Shreveport, for my partner, Lori. Her family lives there, so we took her there to see her family, visit her mom and dad. And we figured, hey, since we're in Louisiana, let's catch a bus south and go to New Orleans, and we'll just fly home from New Orleans. So we spent a day in New Orleans. It was my first time in the Crescent City. Oh my God, I will so be going back to New Orleans. It is just wonderful. I highly recommend it, and I know I recommend everything highly, but I do almost everything highly, but I definitely recommend a trip to New Orleans if you haven't made it. And we didn't even really spend a whole lot of money. Stayed in kind of a cheap hotel and then made our way to the Louis Armstrong Park and walking around Bourbon Street. And we'll talk a lot about that in the coming few days. Stay tuned. We've got more from the Texas Marijuana March. The women speaking, Coral Reefer and Erica Marie Tucker, a canna mom, when we return.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
Looking for the 420 friendliest way to visit beautiful legal Potland, Oregon?
I'm Lori Duckworth, inviting you to come stay with us at Delta 9 House and Studios.
You get your own private room with queen bed and access to our high-speed Wi-Fi, premium entertainment system, and more.
We'll even cook you breakfast. Look us up on Facebook at Delta 9 House.
That's facebook.com/Delta9House. Delta 9 House is booked through Airbnb and licensed by the City of Portland.
It's time for Cannabis Facts about Alzheimer's from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A new Florida study in the journal Molecular and Cellular Neuroscience found that cannabis promotes the growth of healthy new brain tissue. It can slow the effects of Alzheimer's and may in fact be able to halt it entirely. A long-term study by Ohio State University's Professor Gary Wenk concludes that people who regularly use marijuana get Alzheimer's at a much lower rate than others. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
Learn more at mjagenda.com.
I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 4 weeks for Cannabis Sports Medicine from the Gridiron Cannabis Coalition. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
Jag heter David, PKA Drömbal. Vi ska röka hela tiden, alla år.
It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ.
Welcome back. I told everybody I'd just gone to New Orleans and Runaround mentioned I'd love to get to the Jazz Fest. Apparently, I missed the Jazz Fest by a day. Like, I was one day late for catching Jazz Fest. That would have been awesome. But I tell you, what I saw just walking around Bourbon Street and hanging out, it was just enough. But one of the things that, first of all, that was really cool is I checked into the Midtown Hotel, which was pretty low rent hotel. Got to be honest. But hey, I'm a low budget guy. But the best part about it, I'm checking into the hotel and the clerk, she's filling out all the paperwork. She hands the card over. She's got to write the number on the envelope for our card and all. And I swear to God, we got room 420. I swear it. I put it in my Instagram account. Check it out, @RadicalRuss. You can find it on my Instagram. We got room 420. Is that a sign or is that a sign? So put the bags away, went out, wandered Bourbon Street. Now, Bourbon Street is this thin little street, French Quarter's these little thin, narrow streets. And the cops got it blocked off. They got mounted cops. They got a few standing around cops. People just wandering down the streets, this whole closed off street with all these bars, with all this music and all these little daiquiri shops. You can stop in and refill your daiquiri and walk around with your plastic cup and just drink on the streets and go from bar to bar. That's okay. But weed's illegal? Come on now. All right, we're going to take you back to the North Texas Marijuana March where two dynamic women spoke. First, Coral Reefer, you know her from Instagram and YouTube, but also Erica Marie Tucker, a mom in Texas who had to fight against the Child Protective Services there regarding her medical cannabis use. First, Coral Reefer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Coral Reefer. Woo! Hi, hello. This is actually my first time back to Texas in over a decade. So when I was here before, it was for a church conference. This is a little bit different. I'm having a great time, and I'm really excited to be back. The only reason I know about your march here in the Fort Worth area is because of social media. So as just mentioned, I am Coral. I am on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, YouTube. If you're talking about pot online, I'm there, and I'm with you, and I'm posting pictures too. And I want to tell you why that matters. It's really easy to look at big Instagram accounts, to look at the weed accounts and think they're just for sales. They're just promoting something that they want to make money off of. That cannabis has gone out of control and that social media with cannabis is no longer for advocacy. That is not true. Those accounts do not represent us. We are the cannabis users and we are the patients. Standing up, even if that means just posting a picture without your face in it, but telling your story, how you found cannabis, how you found out it helped you, the obstacles and hurdles in your way to access safe meds that benefit you. Those stories need to be heard from every single person here. We've had so many great speakers so far telling these really incredible stories of getting arrested for the cause, of going to City Hall, going to the governor's office. I am a patient with anxiety, and these things terrify me. Leaving my house is a struggle every single day. I have to amp myself up. I have to medicate. I have to make sure I know my plan for my errands if I'm going to go do them. So when I look at these big, huge tasks, they seem insurmountable. They seem so out of reach. It's not until I've surrounded myself with my friends that I've found through social media. I surrounded myself with reefers, with people that follow me, that understand that this is about so much more than selling pot. It's about saving lives and reaching people across the entire world. That all of a sudden I feel brave enough to go into these meetings. I feel brave enough to be in the marches. That's only because of us as a group. So social media with cannabis, it's huge, it's big, but it really relies on all of us as individuals to tell our story. And I want to tell you guys one thing I learned thanks to all of the followers that I've acquired over the years. I was very hesitant to offer merchandise. I didn't really see the need initially, and I really just wanted to focus on sharing what I found interesting and what I was learning about pot. Over and over, people said, we want shirts, we want this, we want that. I was really, really hesitant. I eventually released the Stony Sunday shirt, which I'm so excited to have. I love it. I love seeing the Stony Sunday shirts today around the crowd. I didn't think much of it. I didn't put much conscious decision-making into that choice. A couple rounds into those shirts, some reefers started contacting me, and they started saying, you're a cannabis advocate, right? Why is your shirt not on hemp? Why aren't you advocating for hemp? And I was a little bit defensive. I said, hemp's too expensive. I'm here for medical pot. I want to talk about cannabis medicine. And it was only from all of the messages, the tweets, the Facebook messages, the comments on Instagram, it was the demand from social media to pay attention to hemp that my mind suddenly was open. And now that's all I'll release is hemp shirts. When it comes to textiles, that's all I'll release. When it comes to plastic merchandise, I'm begging Toker Poker, I'm begging Medtainer to have hemp plastic, but I can't do that by myself. They need to hear your guys' voices too. They need to know that hemp plastic is possible. Hemp t-shirts are possible. Cannabis medicine is possible, and that's only coming to light in the mainstream media because of social media and because of the voices and the stories that we're sharing. I have to give so much appreciation to the speakers that we've heard so far. In every single speech that I've heard so far, there was a tinge of social media. I don't know if you heard them or if you noticed, but to get in front of the people that we need to talk to, you need to go viral. You need to have your story catch on. You need these hashtags. You need people to catch on and pay attention. So being that voice, sharing those stories, joining these families' fights changes their lives. And when it comes to that millionaire, that billionaire changing the NFL, how do you think he's going to hear us? How do you think he's going to know that this matters to the people paying tickets to go to the games? It's from social media. So I really want to urge all of you to take another look at your Instagram, your Facebook, your Twitter, your Snapchat. Look how you can use it to share your story and empower the people around you and make friends so that you feel brave enough to go out there and get off the computer, get away from your phone and actually join together in a place like this, because it's so easy to just be posting and just look at social media as a one form of advocacy, but it's a multi-pronged attack. We need to be doing everything we can. We need to be posting, we need to be marching, we need to be sending letters. Find your strength, share it, and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, wherever you guys are. If you want to follow me, my name is Coral Reefer or CoralFish19. I know it's Saturday, but happy Stony Sunday, y'all. Thank you, guys.
Give a very, very warm welcome to a brave woman and a brave family, Erica Marie Tucker of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
Hi, guys. When he told me yesterday if I wanted to come speak, I was so nervous because I had been told by my judge and by the DA of Johnson County to remain quiet and not say anything about our story. And we've had so much support. Our story has gone viral all over the news, the internet, everything. And I wanted to be that voice that spoke out and not be afraid of a DA over a plant. Backstory of me is I have been suffering from seizures for 3 years, out of nowhere. And I had to write this down because seizures, you don't have good memory. So, 1 out of 26 people will develop epilepsy sometime in their life, and you will not know a reason why, you just develop it. I'm 33 years old and just developed it 3 years ago out of the blue. My husband walked in, I was on the ground having a seizure. Had no idea where it came up, had never been in an accident, it just happened, and that's how life goes sometimes. I'm a mom of 5 beautiful, amazing kids. My oldest is down here. My husband's over there in the back. You probably saw my little kids running around. My 3-year-old's birthday is today, and he's the one. He's 3 years old. He's over there. He's kind of being a little crazy, so we had to kind of keep him over there. He's the one that I was nursing when all this went down. I had a really bad grand mal seizure, which is one of the worst seizures I've ever had. I was out for about 20 minutes, had to get transported probably for the 5th time in my life to the ER. One of the nurses said, hey, why aren't you taking your medicine? I didn't have insurance. Medicine was $325 a month. My rich friends can't even afford $325 a month. Like, that's ridiculous. Could not afford it. So I looked into every natural way possible of treating epilepsy. If Coca-Cola could have helped, I would have drank a whole bunch of Coca-Cola. If anything could have helped, I would have done it. And everything kept popping up was cannabis. If I had the money, I would have dropped it and ran to Colorado. But it's really hard to pick up a family of 5 and run to Colorado. I wish it was that easy, believe me, because it's beautiful out there. So, started smoking cannabis and doing what I could. Was a Bible school teacher for 7 years. No record, no anything. We got to the hospital. They asked the normal intake questions of, why haven't you been taking your medicine? I don't have insurance. I can't afford it. Well, how have you been treating it? Cannabis. And I didn't think anything of it. They asked the normal, are you pregnant? No. Do you nurse? Yes. Immediately, we get home after we get checked out. CPS is knocking on my door an hour after I'm home. I was shocked. We're not in trouble ever. Where did this come from? Why did this happen? They immediately removed my 5 kids from my home that day. It was a long journey. 5 months my kids were gone. We had to take 5 different types of counseling. drug tests every week, which obviously we passed because my kids mean the world to me. I got on some kind of medicine, which has the most horrible side effects, but I had no choice. If I could go every which way natural possible way, I would do it. But under here, I wasn't allowed to without having my kids gone. My kids mean everything to me. I homeschool them. I'm with my kids 24/7. Every one of my friends were shocked to know that this happened. And I know a lot of parents here, that's always on the back of your mind. What if, what if, what if? Because it does happen in this world. We have been dragged through the mud of Johnson County. And I'm not going to stand back and let Dale Hanna take this from me. He's not going to ruin my life. He's not going to ruin my kid's life. I'm not going to do 10 years in prison for a plant. An herb that if you just happen to set it on fire, like Cat Williams says, is a magical experience. I love my kids to death. I would do anything for them. And it's been the most craziest ordeal ever. We're still fighting it. We're still going. And this all happened in March of last year. So who would have thought that it'd be a year and a half almost later and we're still fighting a child endangerment charge times 5. 5 child endangerment charges. And this is when we need to step up and say, enough's enough. We need to step up. Every time it comes to voting, share that vote. Let people know. Get out there. It takes 5 minutes to vote so you can change someone's life. No family should ever be ripped apart over a plant. Ever. Like, it's ridiculous. I do want to say, though, I'm very, very grateful for everybody that has supported us here. Our hashtag is #TheTuckerFight. If you ever see that, go sign our petition so I can bring that to Dale Hanna and let him know we have supporters that support us. We are so grateful for everybody that has shared our story, has been there for us, has loved on us more than anything. I love y'all to death, and y'all mean the world to us. So if you can jump on there, share our story. Let them know that this isn't right to rip a family apart over a medicine that could have helped somebody with epilepsy. I don't like having it. I don't have a choice. It's life. But guess what? My kids are my life, and I don't think doing 10 years in prison is worth having to go to jail over a plant that should be legalized. So again, thank you to everybody. I'm done. And one quick, Greg, come here real fast. Bring Jonah. Could everybody please, please, please say happy birthday to Jonah? He's coming. He's coming. This is the one that I got in trouble with for nursing, and he was little bitty. I'm an extended nurser, so don't hate on that. This is Jonah. Hi, Jonah. How old are you? 3. He's 3. Okay, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Jonah. Erica, thank you so much.
Happy birthday to you.
Yes, Jonah, happy birthday. Our young friend, a future activist. Indeed.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs.
You're not going to amount to jack squat.
All right, well, that sound means that it's time for our 420 safety briefing. Everybody's got to remain safe out there. I'm back from the south, so I need to be extra safe. When we return, we've got Dave Weineke's speech at the North Texas Marijuana March, followed by attorney David Sloan. That's all coming up, and then my full speech to round out the day.
This is Cannabis Facts from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org, supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. In 1937, the second most prescribed medicine, marijuana, was banned. It wasn't about marijuana. The paper, oil, and chemical industries lobbied to end hemp farming. No longer labor-intensive, an acre of hemp produced more quality paper than 4 acres of trees. Plastics and fibers could be produced from a plant. Hemp can even produce 10 times the energy of today's ethanol. As marijuana prohibition ends, many states now allow farmers to again grow hemp. This was Cannabis Facts from the silvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to process America's hemp crop at hempinc.com.
The marijuana agenda, like the conservative agenda, minus the hypocrisy.
I'm Russ Belville with the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 4 weeks for Cultivator's Corner with Jorge Cervantes from marijuanagrowing.com. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
I have a package here for Radical Rick. Is there a Radical Rick here? How about a Rick Russ? Any Rick Russ? Somebody named Freddie Barack has sent him a package. Anybody? What is that? Sounds like a skunk. It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ.
All right, welcome back. We got more highlights from the North Texas Marijuana March. I was out there Saturday, and one of the speakers was Dave Weineke, who talked about the need to get in touch with the lawmakers and make some changes for the marijuana laws in the Lone Star State.
And a criminal here in Texas. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dave.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, DFW Normal, for this beautiful event. Also, guys, give it up one more time for the overheads. They were awesome. So like Jess said, I'm going to talk about the differences between being a patient or a criminal and a few other different cultural definitions, if you will. I don't want to use the term label because, well, that's just a shitty term. But how are we defined? If I choose to treat my ADD with cannabis instead of pharmaceutical amphetamines, am I a patient or am I a criminal? If a combat veteran chooses to use cannabis over psychotropics for his PTSD, is he a hero or is he also a criminal? If I want to treat my 67-year-old mother-in-law who has chronic pain with cannabis tinctures or THC-infused pain creams, am I a caregiver or am I now a drug dealer? If you ask these questions to various people, you'll get various answers. And that should not be the case. How do you define yourself? How would society define us out here doing what we're doing today? Judging by the amount of civil disobedience that I see out here, I know a lot of Fort Worth's finest out here might consider us to be criminals. Anybody here ever been arrested? Yeah? If you were convicted, you are now known as a criminal or a convict. House Bill 81, chances are, would have helped you in that situation. I've been arrested a few times. The most dramatic was on April 8th, 2015. I was in Snook, Texas. Does anybody know where Snook, Texas is? Yeah? Snook, S-N-O-O-K. It is a suburb of the giant metropolis that is College Station, Texas. Apparently got some Aggies in the house. So I was working Chili Fest. I was building the stage. I was on the stage crew. We were there for an entire week. The festival ended Saturday night at midnight. We arrived on the job site at 8 o'clock Sunday morning to start tearing down the stages. We were greeted by about 15 to 20 different officers surrounding our van, pulling us out individually. They took 6 of us to jail. And they maybe, between all 6 of us, maybe had an ounce and a half of ganja. House Bill 81 would have saved the state of Texas $60,000 from that one morning. Think about that. $60,000. I'm here to tell you today that you are not criminals. You are activists. You're out here today marching in support of what you believe in, using your voice. You are not criminals. You are heroes. Guys, we are fighting a fight that seems never ending, but believe me, the end is near. We have to keep fighting, though. We're not done. There's still work to be done. These marches are a lot of fun. These events, all these vendors out here, everyone's having a great time. We're going to march down the street to the courthouse, and we're going to hear some even better speakers than myself. And while these marches bring tremendous awareness, marches don't change laws. There's one way to change drug laws in this state, and that is to talk to your representatives and let them know how you feel. Show of hands, round of applause. During this session, right now, who has contacted your representatives? Anybody here? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. One more show of hands, a round of applause. Who's taken some action this week with House Bill 2107? I know you did, I know you did, I know you did. Thank you folks very, very much. I challenge each and every one of you here today. I challenge you this week to contact your representatives. This young lady says if you don't feel comfortable with a phone call or an email, she's got postcards that you can sign right now, and she will send them out for you. So if you want to talk to this lady, she's the real hero right now. But I challenge each and every one of you here today, contact your representatives. Tell them that you support and that you think that they should support House Bill 81, the decriminalization bill, House Bill 2107, the expansion to the Texas Compassionate Use Program. If you're not already registered to vote, like this young lady just reminded me, please do that. The table in the back? All right, fantastic, fantastic. I'm sorry? Correct, today is municipal election day. That's fantastic. Everybody needs to be involved in that. Everybody should vote. Like Russ Belville said, voting matters. Because of people voting and taking action, they can legally go to a store and buy cannabis in Oregon. That's amazing. So I challenge each and every one of you to contact your reps this week. I will be marching again with some of these fine people 1 week from today in Austin, Texas. We're going to march onto the Capitol grounds. We're going to have a rally on the south steps of the Texas State Capitol building, a building that you pay for, by the way, each and every one of you. You have to let these people know how you feel because they work for you. Guys, thank you very, very much for your time. I'm going to now turn the mic over to Jess, I guess, here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Dave doing a great job there speaking at the North Texas Marijuana March. We all gathered there in Burnett Park and got about, at least 1,000 people. I'm going to say maybe 1,100, 1,200 people filling the streets, bicycle cops leading us the whole way, people smoking the whole way, and we took over the steps of the Tarrant County Courthouse, smoking on the courthouse steps as we delivered speeches. It is not to be missed.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
It's time for Cannabis Facts about teen drug use from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A recent survey by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control indicates that in states that have legalized medical marijuana, the rate of marijuana consumption among high school students has not increased. In fact, in legal states like Colorado, teen use has actually decreased significantly. It's simply no longer a big deal for teenagers in legal states. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 4 weeks for the Freedom Leaf Preview with Steve Bloom from Freedom Leaf Magazine. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
Most of us pirates, we go on vacation to North Dakota, you know, because they've got a town called Argosville. Arr. What are you smoking there, boy?
It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ.
All right, everyone. We get you back to the North Texas Marijuana March where David Sloan spoke. He's the attorney at the law office of David Sloan and a huge supporter of DFW NORML. Check out what he had to say on that beautiful Texas day.
I want you to save the name David Sloan in your phone, Sloane. Law offices of David Sloan, go ahead and lock him in case you ever get busted with THC in the state of Texas. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to my NORML attorney. Hopefully one day he will be yours, Attorney David Sloan.
How's it going, guys? How you doing? It's an exciting time in the world of cannabis reform, is it not? I mean, check it out. Look, pot was cool all the way back in the Ming Dynasty, and then United States government came along for some of the most nefarious reasons and outlawed it. And then they used super world power through treaties to outlaw it and ban it worldwide, and then it just became the norm. You know, God gave it to us and the government took it away. Our government, United States government, did that. You know, and we're we have so many opportunities every day when we meet people. Look, if I can stand and talk to a district judge and argue pro-cannabis, you know, you guys can do it with, you know, your workmates and your boss, and yeah, it's each and every one of you's job. Hear that? It's each and every one of you's job to change public perception. And because that's what's happened here. Look, we can take all these press clippings about, we did a march, we did this, we did, you know, and that we made marijuana legal. But the truth of the matter is, you know, as a kid, you hid your weed because if your parents found it, they would flush it. Now, kids hide their weed because if their parents find it, they'll smoke it. That's the truth. I have 3 generations sitting in my office sometimes when little Bumpus is in trouble. Grandma's there too. Look, I've said some things. I've thrown up some cautionary notes in the world of the patients and all the reform that's going on over in that arena, and it's amazing. And God, it's, you know, and in Texas, and it's probably maybe going to help our situation through these incremental changes. But let's not let that become. Let's not be dishonest with them. Okay, they're already starting to say it. Man, give them medical. Next thing you know, they're going to want to smoke that shit in their garage. You know, that's what they're saying. And you know what? They're right, and we need to tell them that. And if we spend all our time focused on just one sliver of the pie in the world of cannabis reform, then we're not being honest. And we need to. Anytime the discussion comes up, you need to talk about how cannabis prohibition in general is just used as this huge means of control of the people. You know, if they can stick the big C on your forehead, they can take your kids, they can take your car, they can take everything you've worked your entire life for. They can take your freedom, they certainly have taken your privacy. It's not just about patience. And we need to always be straight up and look at all the people that are locked in boxes and all the people that are getting fingered on the side of the highway, and you can't go to Colorado without getting stopped coming back now. Don't know what they're doing, but they're identifying you. I mean, I know it sounds Orwellian, but it is. This is what they're doing. How many young men out here are under 25? Okay, keep your hand up. How many of you have had your driver's license suspended or taken away from you because of cannabis use? You know, that doesn't sound like that big a deal, did it, Austin? Well, yes, it is. When you make it where a person can't get to work, they're absolutely worthless. They need a ride everywhere. And money, oh my God. Probation fees? $60 a month? Sign you up for it. We'll put you on the 3-year plan. And let's add all the bells and whistles. You know how much money those people are making? So, let's always be honest. It's great for the patients. We're behind them 100%. We're going to help them, but we're about ending prohibition. Is that what we're about? Hell yes. All of it. All of it. The government is using this as a tool to just stick its fingers in our lives. And that ain't right.
No, sir, that ain't right. That's Attorney David Sloan speaking at the North Texas Marijuana March. It was an amazing event. And when we come back, we'll play my full speech from the early festivities before we began marching, where you've heard me explain it before, but I love telling the Texans how marijuana is our civil right. It's in all 10 of the Bill of Rights when we return.
You're listening to the Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville.
The Marijuana Agenda with Russ Belville is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association and the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit MJBA.net for more details.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORML.
The Marijuana Agenda. Like the liberal agenda, but with profits. Ka-ching.
I'm Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda. Join me every 4 weeks for our Government at Work, the latest in cannabis reform at the local, state, federal, and international level. Learn more at mjagenda.com/about.
2.0.
It's not your father's Woodstock weed.
It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Call in now at 650-LEGAL-MJ.
Welcome back, everybody. Just closing up this edition of Toker Talk Radio and our focus on the North Texas Marijuana March I returned from. And a reminder, we've got more new segments coming up tomorrow, but this is my speech, the full version of my speech from Saturday afternoon.
All right. So before I hog the mic any longer, I want to introduce you guys to somebody who has been a big inspiration to me as a marijuana activist since I became involved in 2011. I have listened to this man speak literally for hours on end because he's got a radio show he does 5 times a week where he talks about marijuana for 2 hours a day. Extremely educational, extremely inspiring, all the way from Portland, Oregon, my friend and mentor, Radical Russ Belville.
Hello, Texas. Hello. From Portland, Oregon, where at my house, I can wake up in the morning, drink some coffee, put on some shoes, walk 6 blocks down the road, and buy some weed. Yeah. Or buy some concentrates. Yes. Legally. Like I can walk into a store and they check my ID, and I can buy marijuana and walk home with it. And nobody cares. It's beautiful. And guess what? The sky didn't fall. Everything's still working pretty much the same as it used to, except maybe people have a little more of a smile on their face these days. Yeah. Don't you think we could do that in Texas? I mean, come on. We're all smoking weed. They know we're smoking weed. They know we're smoking weed. Let's stop fooling around here and get with the program and just get on to legalization. That's going to take steps. HB 2107, you got to make that step into medical. You're going to have that HB 81, that step into decrim. But man, you take enough steps and you walked a mile. You walked 1,000 miles eventually. And understand that's where we started in Oregon as well. We started with decrim in 1973, started with medical in 1998. Fortunately, you're not going to have to wait 40 years to take all your steps because a lot of people have taken those steps before you and you can just follow their path. And this is the path. Getting active, putting your feet on the ground. Like Sean said, a whole bunch of posts on Facebook don't mean nothing compared to getting your feet in the street and meeting people and changing their minds by sharing your stories. Now, I want to talk about why we're here today. Do y'all know why we're here today? We're here because it's our constitutional right to be here. And I'm not just talking about our First Amendment right to free speech, our First Amendment right to peaceably assemble, our First Amendment right to petition our government for a redress of our grievances, namely locking us in a cage for a plant that Thomas Jefferson grew. But I also am here to tell you that it's our constitutional right to grow cannabis and consume marijuana. It is our constitutional right. We have had our heritage stripped from us. In 1611, the very first hemp crops were planted in the first colonies in America. That means we've had industrial hemp in this country for over 400 years. In 1850, Dr. O'Shaughnessy came back from India and educated the world, re-educated the world on the medical value of cannabis. That started taking place in America in 1850. From 1850 to 1942, cannabis was part of the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, the official list of what is medicine. That means marijuana was officially medicine in America longer than it's been prohibited in America. And the recreational or adult use of marijuana. Sometimes our opponents will say, yeah, medical. Yeah, hemp, but not that pot smoking. Not that pot smoking. Well, I'll tell them something. Pot smoking is a part of our heritage, too. It goes back to the early 1900s when Jelly Roll Morton and Kid Creole and Louis Armstrong and all of these early jazz musicians, Cab Calloway, were smoking reefers or token jive or using tea or muggles. They had to talk about it in code, but they were using it. So our adult use culture goes back at least a century. So when our opponents say, oh, well, alcohol's okay because it's got a long cultural history, Well, so does cannabis. It is our constitutional right. It is our heritage that has been stolen from us. And sometimes people will look at these rallies, the squares, the straights out there. They're like, oh, yeah, these pot smokers in the park having their little party, having their little march so they can have the right to get high. It's not about the right to get high. It's about all of our constitutional rights. Every single one of our constitutional rights in the Bill of Rights is impacted by the war on marijuana. Let's run it down. First Amendment, freedom of religion. You can choose to worship the creator of your belief any way you so choose, unless you're a Rastafarian. Sorry, you can't have your sacrament. You can't smoke your ganja as your creator dictates you need to do. The Catholics can have their wine. That's okay. The Native American shamans, they can have their peyote. They can have their ayahuasca. That's okay. But the Coptic Christians and Rastafarians and others of faith and of no faith who just believe communing with the universe means consuming cannabis, sorry, you don't get your First Amendment right to freedom of religion. Does that sound right to you? Let's run it down. Our Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Unless you're a pot smoker, you can't have a gun. In fact, there is this federal law, 1968 Gun Control Act, that says any known user of a Schedule I substance cannot be sold or cannot possess firearms or ammunition. Now, they used to have a little checkbox on a form for that. A little federal form you fill out when you get your weapon. Check it. I know that you can't do that. Under the Trump administration, they've added to that. They've added to the form to explicitly say, even if your state has legalized the medical or recreational use of marijuana, that is still against the law. You can't have a gun. And if you check that, and they found out you lied about that, you've committed a federal felony by perjuring yourself on a federal form. So we don't have our Second Amendment rights as cannabis consumers. Any gun dealer that Googles Radical Russ is going to see me with a joint in my hand, and boom, I've lost my Second Amendment rights. Does that sound right to you? Let's run it down. Our Third Amendment. This is the one that's the killer Jeopardy question, right? Nobody knows what the Third Amendment was, but the Third Amendment is the amendment that says that the government can't house soldiers in your house in a time of peacetime. Now, that's not really something we worry about these days, but back in colonial days, the king used to want to store his soldiers in people's houses. So how does marijuana affect the Third Amendment? Well, think about what storing a soldier in your house really means. It means that the government has an agent of the state in your house watching what you do. Did we lose the mic? We lose power? All right, it's still there. All right. So the Third Amendment means the government has an agent of the state in your house watching what you do. Under the war on drugs, when a Ninth Circuit Court decision decided that the government could put a GPS tracker on your car in your driveway without your knowledge with no warrant. I'll tell you what, I'd rather have an agent of the state in my car than have a GPS tracker in my car. At least the agent of the state sleeps. Does that sound right to you? No. Let's check out our Fourth Amendment rights. Our Fourth Amendment right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure. Ha! The whole war on marijuana is about unreasonable searches and seizures. Unreasonably checking my pocket to see if I got a joint. Unreasonably checking my piss to see if I've got metabolites in it that make it worthy for me to get a job or not. Does that sound right to you? They're not searching and seizing guys that get drunk on the weekend, checking out whether they got metabolites of beer in their piss, because guess what? There are no such things. They float away in a couple hours. Meanwhile, we smoke a joint. We're unhireable for a week to a month. That ain't right. I don't think you could explain that to James Madison and Thomas Jefferson. Let's count it down. Our Fifth Amendment right. Our Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate ourselves. We have a Fifth Amendment right that says the government can't force you to narc on yourself, basically. Can't force you to testify against yourself. Well, what is a piss test but testifying against yourself? When they require you to give up a part of your body that can convict you of a crime, that's a violation of your right against self-incrimination. Does that sound right to you? No. Hell no. The Sixth Amendment of the Constitution. The Sixth Amendment is our right to a fair and speedy trial before a jury of our peers. But oftentimes these trials can take 6-7 months before they get underway. Roger Christie, a THC minister in Hawaii, sat in a cell for 3 years before they got him a trial on charges of running a pot church, basically. It also is our right to confront our accuser. Sixth Amendment says that if someone accuses you of a crime, you can face them in court. And I can say, hey, why do you accuse me of that crime? What's your evidence? How do I cross-examine a drug dog? Woof, 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 woof. Your Honor, I'd like to treat the witness as hostile. He won't speak English. You can't confront your accuser if it's a dog. Does that sound right to you? Hell no. Our Seventh Amendment right. The Seventh Amendment right says that any manner of a civil suit equaling $20 in value or more, we have the right to a trial. We can take that to a civil court. How do I take my dealer to civil court if he shorted me 2 grams on my last bag? I can't do that. I've lost my Seventh Amendment right to deal with civil matters in a court. I got to deal with them with fists or a gun or a knife or whatever. Does that sound right to you? Hell no. Our Eighth Amendment protects us from cruel and unusual punishment. No cruel and unusual punishment. Well, first of all, think of the cruelty of locking someone up in a cage for something Thomas Jefferson was growing in his backyard. That seems a little weird, a little unusual, if you ask me. And you want to talk about cruel? Jonathan Magny was a medical marijuana patient in Washington, D.C., quadriplegic, in a chair, pretty much paralyzed. Cops arrested him for having 2 joints on his person that he was using for medical purposes, locked him in a cell for 3 days without access to any of his medicine. He asphyxiated on his own vomit because he couldn't control his nausea because he didn't have his cannabis. Basically, a death sentence for 2 joints. That sounds pretty cruel, doesn't it? Seems pretty unusual, doesn't it? Does that sound right to you? Let's write it down. Our Ninth Amendment. The Ninth Amendment, man, this is one of my favorite rights in the Constitution. The Ninth Amendment. A lot of people don't know it. To me, it is as sacred as the Second Amendment or the First Amendment or the Fourth or any of the others. And the Ninth Amendment says, the enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights is not meant to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Let me translate from colonial into modern. What that amendment says is, look, just because we wrote down a bunch of rights doesn't mean that's all your rights. Just because we enumerated a bunch of rights in the Constitution doesn't mean that there's not other rights the people have. Because think about it, they couldn't write them all down. You have the right to a tasty dinner. You have the right to roll around in the grass. You have the right to get a suntan. You have the right to kiss your wife. They can't write all the rights down. But when they founded this country, they said it was founded because of a search for protection of our inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not to be happy. You don't have a right to be happy, but you have the right to pursue it. I don't know about you. Does smoking weed make you happy? Then you have a right to pursue that. And that's under the Ninth Amendment. They don't have a thing in the Constitution that says you can't do that. And as far as I'm concerned, we're talking about an agrarian economy founded by a bunch of hemp farmers who got drunk off their asses. Do you know what a bunch of drunks the founding fathers were? The bar tab for the Constitutional Convention, and remember, 56 guys signed the Constitution, right? Bar tab for 56 guys was $50,000 worth of alcohol. So don't tell me that these guys were soused after writing the Constitution would think we didn't have a right to alter our consciousness, to be able to change the way we think and perceive and feel. We have that right. It's right there in the Constitution. And finally, I'd like to close on one that you're probably pretty familiar with, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, which says the rights of the states, if something's not enumerated as the federal government's job, then it's the job of the states or the people. Nowhere in that Constitution do I say the federal government's job is to tell people what they can plant on their own land. Nowhere in that Constitution do I see that it's the federal government's job to tell the people what they can ingest in their own homes. Nowhere in that Constitution do I see anywhere where it says the federal government has the right to tell you how to think, how to feel, how to be, how to act in this country, so long as you're not harming others. That's right. So this war on marijuana affects all 10 of our civil liberties. It affects some of the others as well. It affects the right to vote. In many states, and I'm not sure about Texas's law, but in many states, when you get a felony, you lose your right to vote. In most of the states in the South, you lose your right to vote for life, effectively. This situation has caused a problem in America where in most of the southern states and a few of the others, because of the disproportionate nature of this war on drugs and its racist origins and its racist continuation, has seen a situation where in the South, most of the states in the South, 1 out of 5 to 1 out of 4 black men cannot vote. Because they're more likely to get busted, more likely to get that charge, more likely to have the felony instead of the misdemeanor. That is what we wrote the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments to ameliorate, treating people differently based on their race, trying to restrict their right to vote because of their race. And the war on drugs is succeeding where Jim Crow has failed, and we need to change that. If all those black men had been able to vote in 2000 in Florida, Al Gore would have been president. If all those black men in the South were able to vote in 2016, Hillary Clinton would be president. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying the will of the American people is not being met when 1/5 of the black folks in our country are having their voting rights stolen from them. So get out there, register to vote if you can. If you can't register to vote, help other people register to vote. Let's get these laws changed. Celebrate and make sure. Call your reps. HB 2107, HB 81. The only way these laws change is when you change them. I have people that say, oh, Russ, voting doesn't change anything. And I say, yeah, voting doesn't change anything. Excuse me while I walk down the street to my legal pot shop that we voted for. I'm Russ Belville. I'm with the Marijuana Agenda. It's a live talk radio show 5 days a week at mjagenda.com. mjagenda.com. Thanks for inviting me out. I love you, Texas!
Yeah, I love visiting Texas. That was my 5th global marijuana march that I was able to take part in Texas, and I'll go back. I'll keep going back every time they'll have me. They'll have another march in Dallas, I believe in October, and I'll actually be going back in November to marry 2 activists. You heard from Mike. He's marrying Akila. She's another wonderful activist, and I'm going to be the minister because, you know, I am a minister. For everyone here at Delta 9 Studios, thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
Follow MJ Agenda on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, and SoundCloud. And follow MJ Agenda Show on Twitter. Learn more at mjagenda.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.